My name is Rachel Segrest, and I'm the founder and lead designer, head instructor, boss, owner, etc. of Race Design. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make a small pouch out of a shirt that you have at your house. I think materials can be really challenging to come by and very quickly get expensive, so I wanted to show you guys how to make something using material that you already have. This is a really simple pattern. It's just a square and kind of a double trapezoid here. You need some pins, scissors, thread, and a sewing machine. I'm gonna pin this in place so that I can cut it easily. I did make sure to center this. I made little marks with my buttons. So I've always really enjoyed making things. I made forts as kids, I took apart electronics, and then in high school, I took home ec and learned to sew, which broadened my horizons to the textile and soft goods world. I got a master's at Savannah College of Art and Design. So as I was learning about how to make things and the tips and tricks of product design, I really didn't like that it was this knowledge that was only known by those who could honestly pay for it. And so I, through Race Design, have been trying to sort of equal out that imbalance. So it's really important for me to educate people and share what I know, and also just break down the barriers between the average person and a designed object, showing how easily it's made, what it's made of, and how you can do it yourself. I like to inspire people through my designs. I really love using geometric shapes, and I think it's fun and enjoyable to see geometric shapes out and about in the world. Bam. Well, we got our two pieces. We're gonna pin this together. Inside out. We're gonna sew this inside out, so you need to flip your piece so that the buttons are facing down. Then I'm gonna line up the edges here. I'm roughly centering it, just kind of eyeballing it, and I'm gonna pin it together. We're also pinning in the first place to hold this together. It's kind of a tedious thing, but it's going to make the sewing process way easier. So we're gonna pin this with the pins going perpendicular. That way, when we ultimately come back with a sewing machine, our sewing machine can just run right over these pins. So pin perpendicular. We're gonna sew this with a 3/8 seam allowance. So we're not gonna be sewing all the way at the edge. A seam allowance is basically just the gap between where your stitch is and the edge of the fabric. Also, if you want this to have more structure, you can double up on the fabric. You have our little tent here, and it's all pinned all around. So if you know nothing else, this is what you need to know if you want to sew. So we're going to talk about quickly an overview of the parts of this thing. Now, you are in control of the machine. It's just a machine like anything else that you use. We have the hand wheel over here on the side. You only want to move the hand wheel toward yourself, and you can see it'll operate your needle. The way that a sewing machine works, you have a top thread, and then you have a bobbin down here, which is a tiny spool of thread that you manually load with thread. And then you have the needle that brings those two pieces of thread together to form your stitch. So before getting started, you're always going to have to check on your bobbin and see if you have thread in it. So come over here. bobbin winding typically happens up top. And luckily the machine does it for you. Move it to the side, and then you're gonna press on your foot pedal down here and it'll wind. Okay, that's enough of that. Cut away this little top piece. You cut this off. And then you can put your bobbin down into the machine. Now you have to rewind the thread after you do that because it's slightly different for the needle to be wound. It's usually pretty intuitive how to wind a machine, but once again, each machine varies slightly, so it's a good idea to double check on your machine's manual or on the internet. So you're gonna hold this piece, twist your hand wheel toward yourself, and it's gonna catch that little bobbin thread and bring it up in this loop. So you see you'll have two pieces of thread, your top thread and your bobbin thread coming out. And now you're ready to get sewing. So we're gonna take our piece of work. Before sewing this, you should always sew a test piece to check the thread tension, which is right here. You also wanna make sure your needle orientation, in our case, is in the center, which is right here. That's also your zigzag. And you wanna check your stitch length, which is right here. And that is literally how long each stitch is. So we're gonna put this on 3.5. Also, a key thing that I'm gonna be using frequently, because I always use it when sewing, is the reverse lever. And you'll see that very soon. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm gonna be sewing using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And that means that the distance between my needle and the edge of the fabric is gonna be 3/8. Most needle plates have little lines like this one does that help you gauge that distance. So I'm using the little guides that are on the needle plate. Lowering my presser foot and then twisting the hand wheel so that the needle is in the work. You want to keep your work piece to the left of the needle. You don't really want to get in the habit of putting anything under here. It's more likely that if you do start putting your pieces of work over here, you're more likely to cross your hand over and get hurt. We're going to come forward about 3 stitches using the foot pedal. You can also use the hand wheel if you want. And then we're gonna reverse 3 stitches to lock it in, and then we'll continue on. So we're gonna kind of get it going with the hand wheel. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have to be perfect. Gonna go back 3, and then that's good to go. And we'll continue on here. When you go around corners, just go slow. It's okay not to zoom through it. When I get to a corner also, I like to leave the needle in the work, lift up your presser foot, and then you can pivot it. I went over that twice because that is where the buttons are, and there's a bunch of folds, so the material is thicker, and I just want to reinforce it. Now we're back at the start. I rolled over my stitches that I already did. I'm gonna reverse once again to lock in the end. And then we're done. You wanna make sure that your needle is out of your work. So sometimes you might finish like that. It's okay. Bring your hand wheel toward you to get your needle out. You wanna raise it as high as you can go. Then lift the presser foot, pull the work out, and leave about like 5 to 6 inches here. Snip it. we've sewn this inside out. So now we will remove the pins. Now we've gotten all the pins out, and we'll turn it right side out. And there you have it, a little pencil pouch. Or you can keep your sewing supplies in here since now you're an experienced, serious sewer. Bam. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful to you. I'm offering this pattern for free. You can find it at Scale's website as well as mine. Just click the link below and it'll lead you to it.